I'd like for you to think about something very special right now. Your name. What is your name? Chances are your name has a special meaning for the people who named you. You may even be sitting in the same room with the person who did name you. Maybe you were named after another family member, or your name sounded unique and beautiful. Now, here's a different question. Has anyone ever called you a different name than your real name before? Sometimes a sick baby is named for a strong and powerful person in history, or in the family, as a way to try to impart that baby with some strength. Sometimes we hear harmful name-calling, and when that happens, you can see someone who might be happy and confident transformed into someone ashamed and sad. Sometimes the reason why name-calling hurts us is that someone is trying to gain control over us by deciding what or who we are. When you name something, whether you're giving someone a name or you're calling someone by their name or you're name-calling, you're actually doing something very ancient and something very powerful. Our names matter deeply to us. Our names seem to be us. They seem to define us. And there are deep connections with the power of naming that stretch far back into our folkloric and mythological history. Now, to better understand this idea, let's hear one classic story from Germany, collected by the Grimm brothers in 1857, about the power of naming. And as I tell you this story, I want you to think about your own name. Once upon a time, there was a miller, and that miller ground the grain into wheat. You don't grind? Grind. And that miller was very poor, but though he was very poor, he had a daughter, and the daughter, she was beautiful. And he was so proud of his daughter, he would boast about his daughter to everyone he could meet, including to the king. One day he came across the king and he said, "Oh, my daughter, she is so wonderful. She could spin straw into gold." Well, the king, he was greedy. And as soon as he heard this, he said, You bring your daughter to me." Well, the miller, he brought the daughter over to the king, and the king, he took that daughter and he brought her over to the castle, took her into a room that was filled with straw. He said, You go and you spin all of this straw into gold like your father said you could, or I will kill you. And he went over and shut the door. Well, there she was in that room with all of that straw. And if I do not spin all this straw into gold, the king, he will kill me. Ew. Oh, what do I do? And she sat there. She didn't know what to do when all of a sudden, whoop, up out of the floor popped a tiny little man. "What would you give me if I could spin all of this straw into gold?" She said, I would give you my pearl necklace. I will do it. And so she took off her pearl necklace. Everybody pretend like you're taking off your pearl necklace. She took off that pearl necklace. She gave it to the little man. And the little man, he took that necklace and he started to spin. And you spin, you tap your foot. Everybody tap your foot. If you can reach the floor, tap their foot. And he spun all of that straw. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Go ahead and spin. Whoosh, 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 into the finest gold thread you have ever seen. It piled up. Bye-bye. And he disappeared. Well, the next morning, the king, he opened the door and all of this gold. He took the girl. He brought her to a second room. That room was twice as large as the first room, and it was filled with twice as much straw. You spin all of this straw into gold, or I will kill you. Wham! Slam the door. The girl, she didn't know what to do. She couldn't spin the straw into gold when up out of the ground, whoop, came who? The little man. Yes, she didn't know who it was. She said, "Oh, can you help me again?" I can spin this into gold if you give me something. I will give you my gold ring. And so she took off her gold ring. Everybody take off your gold ring. Took off her gold ring. And she gave it to the little man. He said, danke. Can you say danke? You all speak German now. Danke, thank you. Danke. He pocketed the little golden ring and he set to work spinning. Everybody spin. Tap that foot and he spun and he spun. And pretty soon all of that straw was spun into the most beautiful golden thread. Well, bye-bye. And he poofed away. King opened the door the next morning. All of this gold! You come with me. And he grabbed the girl. He brought her into a third room that had a high ceiling. It was the largest room she had seen yet, and it was full of straw heaped in piles up to the ceiling. You spin all of this straw into gold, and I will make you my wife. Slammed the door shut. Well, she said, oh, if I spin all of this straw into gold, he will make me his wife. Ew. And she didn't like the idea of that. He was not a very nice king, but whoop, up out of the ground. What would you give me if I spun all of this straw into gold? Well, she knew that the king would kill her if she didn't spin the straw into gold, but if she did spin the straw into gold, the king would what?
Marry her.
Ooh, yes. Oh, but she said, you must spin it into gold. What would you give me? I have no pearls. I have no gold ring. You give me your firstborn child. Well, that was a horrible idea. But she knew that if the king killed her, she would never have a child to begin with. She said, all right, okay, just spin it into gold. Yes. And so he spun, everybody spun. Spun that straw. Oh, and it heaped high, that room full of gold. Well, bye-bye, he poofed. And the door opened. The king saw, so much gold. And the king and the girl were married. And pretty soon, they had a little baby. And soon after that little baby was born, the queen now, for that's what she was in her room when up popped out of the ground, whoop, the little man. I have come for your firstborn child. Oh, no, you cannot have my baby, no. I will give you one chance. If you can guess my name, then you can keep your baby. I will give you 3 nights to guess, and then the child is mine. And he poofed down into the ground. Well, the girl, she racked her brains. She couldn't figure out what in the world, what kind of name would this man have? And the first night came, and whoop, can you guess my name? She guessed every name she could think of. No, nine. He poofed out. Second night, same thing. He poofed up out of the ground. I do not know. She guessed every name she could think of. That is not my name. And he poofed down into the ground the third day. She didn't know what to do. She couldn't guess his name. She didn't know what in the world she was going. She couldn't lose her baby. But that evening, before the sun set, the king himself came riding home. He said, it was the strangest thing. I was out riding in the deepest part of the woods. And in the very deepest, darkest part of the woods, I saw a little hut. And in that little hut, there was a man. He was outside of the hut, and he was jumping up and down. He was saying these words, and I'll tell you what they were in German. He said, Heute bach ich, morgen brau ich, übermorgen hol ich die Königin ihr Kind. Ach, wie gut ist, dass niemand weiß, dass ich Rumplestiltskin heiß. And what that means is, today I bake, tomorrow I brew. The next day I come for the king's own child. It's such a good thing that no one knows that... What name?
Rumplestiltskin.
Rumplestiltskin is my name. Well, the king told the girl this. She said, oh, danke. Can you all say that with me? Danke. Speak good Deutsch. Yes. The night came, and up out of the ground, boom, popped it. You cannot guess my name. She had her baby. I do not know. Is your name... What's your name?
Sam.
Is your name Sam? No. Is your name... What's your name? Is your name Ben? No. Is your name... What's the real name?
Rumplestiltskin.
Shout it out.
Rumplestiltskin.
Rumplestiltskin? I know how to do the devil told you that name? Der Teufel told you. And he hopped up and down and he started to stomp. Everybody stomp your foot. He started to stomp. And he stomped until that foot and that leg went all the way down into the ground, knee height. Well, he was so angry, he started to try and pull that leg up, and he couldn't. And he got so angry, he took his hands. Everybody take your hands. And he started to rip himself up into pieces. And finally, everybody blow. That was the end of Rumplestiltskin. And the queen and her baby lived happily to the end of their days. There are even older stories about the power of naming. Some of our oldest stories about knowing a secret name or naming others as a way of gaining power or authority over them. In ancient Egypt, all living creatures, all the animals, all the plants, everything that creeps and crawls, slithers, sprouts and gallops, everything was created by the god Ra. Ra, the sun god with the head of a hawk. Ra created each thing by speaking its secret name, its true name, the name that was believed to be connected with the essence of that thing. He spoke that secret name into being, and it came into being. So he spoke Shu, and Shu was born, the god of the wind. Ra spoke the name Tefnut, and Tefnut was created, the goddess of the rain. So, knowing the secret name of something was a pretty powerful thing. Speak the secret name, and you create it. Imagine if all you had to do was say, pizza, and a big pizza with your favorite toppings appeared right in front of you. In other stories, naming something is also a sign of your power or authority over that thing. In Judaic and Christian beliefs, God gave Adam every single thing that he had created, and he let Adam name every single thing. So naming something has always been a special task. Even knowing someone else's name and calling them by their name was a powerful thing in ancient times. It was believed that knowing someone's name gave you power over them. In ancient Egyptian beliefs, the name of the sun god, the creator, the most powerful god who crossed the skies every day in the form of the sun, the name of Ra, was a secret. And in Ra's journey across the sky each day, he got old, and he started to drool. And that drool, it puddled onto the earth. And the goddess Isis, who was jealous of Ra's power, she took some of that drool and she mixed it with dirt, and she shaped the clay into a serpent. And the serpent was made of a divine substance, Ra's own drool. And as Ra, the sun god, began his trek across the sky, the serpent sunk its fangs deep into Ra's flesh. And because the serpent had been made by Ra's own drool, the poison entered the sun god Ra. He was dying from that poison, and Isis said that, she would give him an antidote. She would save him, but only if he would tell her his name. And when he did, I am Ra. When the goddess Isis knew his name, she had power over him. And she took her own son and made her own son ruler. You can see this power of naming in your own classroom or your office. For example, you probably call your teacher by her title, Mrs. Irvin or Mr. Bruce. But your teachers probably call you by your first name, Alan or Rachel. Your teachers have more authority in the classroom. They can use your first name. They have authority. And out of respect for their authority, you use their title, Mr., Mrs., Doctor. Calling Rumpelstiltskin by his name is a speech act, a spoken word that has material effects in the world, like a magic spell. When the girl discovers Rumpelstiltskin's name, it does something. It renders him powerless. Now let's hear another folk tale about the power of naming, another version of Rumpelstiltskin. This story is from the Orkney Islands off the northern coast of Scotland, where the cultural heritage is connected with both Norse and Scottish folklore. Once upon a time, there was a king, put on your crown, and a queen. And the king and the queen had 3 beautiful daughters. But after a time, the king died. And the mother, the queen, she decided to take her 3 daughters to live out in the country. And in that cottage, they lived very happily. They had a garden and a cow. And in that garden, they grew many, many cabbages. Only day after day, as they lived in that cottage, they noticed that cabbage after cabbage kept going missing. And so every morning they would wake up, they would look out. Where are all my cabbages? They all wondered, what's happened to my cabbages? And so finally, the oldest daughter decided, she said, I'll find out. I'll find out what's happened to the cabbages. You just give me a blanket. And so the mother gave the daughter a blanket, and she took her blanket, and she decided to stay out. Better put on your blanket. Stay out one night and find out what was happening with those cabbages. So she sat down in that garden, and sure enough, as it got darker and darker, she heard pull, 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 pull. And into that garden came the biggest giant that girl had ever seen. And the giant had a giant basket, and he was scooping up cabbages and putting them into his basket. Everybody take a cabbage. And putting them into his basket. Well, she went over and said, why are you taking all of our cabbages? Why are you taking all of our cabbages? Well, the giant didn't pay her any attention, just kept picking up cabbages. Ready to pick up a cabbage? Putting them into his basket. Why are you taking all our cabbages? You can't take all our cabbages. Well, finally, the giant, he picked up the last cabbage, put it in his basket, and he picked up the girl, too. Put her in the basket, and back home he went. Boom, 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 boom. Back to his house. And he set his basket down on the ground, and he took out all the cabbages. Everybody take out all the cabbages. And he took out the girl. He said, now you'll go to work. Ha! And he took her out in the back pasture where he kept his cow. Now you'll go and milk that cow. Oh no, you're going to make me milk that cow. And then you'll go and take that cow out into the field. And this was the giant's land, and the field that he owned was called Bloodfield. And then I need you to take this wool. And he handed the girl a big tuft of wool. I'm going to take your wool. You take the wool. You card the wool. And he told her that she had to take the wool and tease the wool. But he teased the wool. She had to tease the wool. She had to card the wool. And that carding combs have sharp spikes that you use to straighten out the strands of wool. So she had to straighten out the strands of that wool. And then she had to spin the wool. Everybody spin the wool. She had to spin that wool. And then she had to weave it into cloth. And then he left. Well, he left, and he left her with all that work to do. Well, she went to the cow. Better go to your cow. And she started to milk the cow. She could milk the cow easily enough. And then she set it out into the field called
Bloodfield.
Bloodfield, yes. She set out the cow. Well, by then she was tired. She was so tired, she decided that she was going to make herself some porridge. And so she put herself some porridge into a bowl. She heated it up, and she was just about to eat it when up popped little fairy folk. And in the Orkney Islands, which is where this story is from, in the Orkney Islands, the fairy folk are called Peeries. Can you say Peeries? Peeries. The Peeries popped up. They said, we're so hungry. We're so hungry. Can you spare us a bite to eat? Oh, little enough for one, and less for two, and nary a grain I'll share with you. Well, the Peeries, they were very unhappy. But they went away. And the girl, she kept on eating her porridge. But eat your porridge. She kept on eating the rest of her porridge, and then she went over to the wool. And she started to try to tease out that wool. That was her first task. But everybody take your wool. She tried to tease it. It wouldn't tease. She tried to card it. I'd try and card it. It wouldn't card. She couldn't do a thing with the wool, and soon enough, boom, 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 boom. But he'd come back in. Boom, 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 boom. In came the giant. What have you been doing? Well, he was so upset that she hadn't finished all of her work. He took her, but he'd take the girl. Took the girl. This is kind of icky. Took the girl, peeled off her skin like a banana, whoosh, and stuck her up in the rafters. But it was an enchanted castle. And she sat there up in the rafters. She couldn't move, and she couldn't speak. And she got pretty bored. The next night came, and back home, they noticed the cabbages were still gone, and so was the first daughter. But the second daughter, she was brave, and she plucked up her courage. She said, I'll go, Mother. I'll find out what's happening with the cabbages. Just give me a blanket. And so the mother, she gave the second oldest daughter a blanket. Everybody take a blanket. She flung it around her shoulders, and she sat out and waited in the garden. Well, sure enough, the giant came. Boom, boom, boom. Everybody come in. Boom, 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 boom. Giant came in. Why are you taking our cabbages? Why are you taking our cabbages? Well, what did the giant do? Picked up what?
Girl.
The cabbages and the girl, yes. Put them all in his basket. Boom, 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 boom. Went on back home. Sat the girl down, told her she had to milk the cow, and set it out in the field called?
Bloodfield.
Bloodfield. And then what did she have to do? Take the wool and tease it, and card it, and spin it into yarn, and then weave it into cloth. Well, same thing happened. The girl, she milked the cow. Everybody milked the cow. Set it out into the field called?
Bloodfield.
Oh, but she got tired. She made the porridge. But each porridge. Up popped the little peary folk. Little for one and less for two. And nary a grain I'll share with you. And the peary folk, they disappeared. And she could not do a thing with that wool. She tried to tease it. Everybody tease. Oh, it was just falling to pieces, and she couldn't card it at all. The giant came in. He saw that she hadn't done a thing with all of that wool. Oh, what have you been doing? Took the girl. Better take the girl. Ew. Peeled off her skin whoosh, like a banana and stuck her up in the rafters. She couldn't speak, and she couldn't move. Both sisters got very bored up there. The night came. Well, the mother and the youngest sister thought, what in the world has happened? Where are my two sisters? And what has happened to all the rest of our cabbages? Well, the youngest daughter, she was brave. She said, Mother, I'll find out what's happened. Give me a blanket. And so she took a blanket. Everybody took a blanket. Flung it around her shoulders. She went out into the garden and she hid, and there, boom, 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 sure enough, came who?
The giant.
The giant. Where are you taking our cabbages? Why are you taking our cabbages? And where? Well, what did the giant do? He picked up all the cabbages, and who?
The girl.
The girl. Put her in his basket. Boom, 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 boom. On home he came. And he told the girl she had to milk the
Cow.
and set it out in the field called?
Bloodfield.
And then what did she have to do with the wool? She had to tease it and card it and spin it into yarn, and then weave it into cloth. Well, off he went. And the girl, well, she milked the cow, ready to milk cow, set it out in the field called?
Bloodfield.
Oh, but then she went home, made herself some porridge. Up popped the peary folk. But when they asked her, oh, we're so hungry, can you give us something to eat? She said, yes, pick up anything you like, see if you can have some of the porridge. Well, each of the peary folk grabbed something to use as a utensil. One of them grabbed a broom. Everybody grab your broom. And tried to brush that food into his mouth. Brush all the porridge into his mouth. Another one took a broken plate. Everybody take a broken plate. And tried to scoop up some of the porridge with that broken plate. Oh, it was so good. The peary folk were so happy. Oh, and all of them disappeared except for one. And he said, have you got any work? Do you need me to do any work for you? Oh, I've got to take that wool, and I've got to do what? Tease it, and card it, and spin it, and make it into cloth. Right. Oh, I can do that. But I cannot repay you. I have nothing to pay you with. All you have to do is guess my name. Well, she gave this little man the wool. She gave the man the wool. Everybody give him the wool. And away he went with it. Well, the evening started to grow closer. And after a while, she heard a knock at the door. She was afraid it was the giant. She opened the door, but it wasn't. It was an old woman. Have you got a place to stay? I'm so tired. Oh, no. Oh, no. She knew it wasn't her house. It wasn't her place to offer a home for the old woman for the night. She said, I'm so sorry. I cannot offer you a place to stay, but have you got any news? Have you got a wee bit of news for me? No, I have no news. And the old woman was sent away. She went walking out. And the old woman walked deeper into the forest. But as the old woman walked deeper, she came across a knoll. She came across a little hill, and she heard a voice coming from inside that knoll. And it said, tease, teasers, tease. Can you say that with me? Tease, teasers, tease. Comb, carders, comb. Comb, carders, comb. Spin, spinners, spin. Spin, spinners, spin. For Peery Fool is my name. For Peery Fool is my name. Oh, well, the woman thought, that's a bit of news. And back she went to that house of the giant where the girl was, because she thought, I have some news. Maybe the girl will let me stay for the night. And so back she went. And the girl opened the door, and the old woman told her, I found a bit of news. And she told her what she had heard coming from that knoll, and the bit about, my name is Peery Fool. Well, the girl, she knew what that meant. And sure enough, well, she let the woman come in and have a place over in the corner. She rested, and then she left and went on her way. Well, soon enough, back popped, whoop, the little man. And he had beautiful cloth with him. And he kept that cloth tucked close to him. He said, have you guessed my name? You can have this cloth if you tell me what my name is. Well, she remembered what the old woman had said, but she thought she would play with the little man a little bit. And she said, is your name... What's your name?
Gideon.
Is your name Gideon? What did the little man say? No, no. She said, is your name...
No.
Noah? What did the little man say? No. Then she said, is your name... Everybody say the right name. Peery Fool. No. He took that wool that he had turned into cloth. Everybody take your wool cloth. Threw it at the girl. And out he stormed, stomping the whole way. Well, he walked out that door, and as he walked out, he passed the giant, who was boom, 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 coming back. And the giant saw Peery Fool grumbling to himself. And the giant thought, ho, that's a good wife, that is, who can tell the fairy folk what to do. Ha ha! And he liked this girl. He decided he would give her no more work, but she had to stay. Well, he came back, told her no more work for you. And he went to sleep, and the next day the giant went out. Well, the girl, she knew she had to find a way back home for herself and her two sisters, who were up in the rafters of that enchanted house. And so she took her sisters that next day. She brought them back down. She took their skins, ready to take skins, stuck the skins back on the girls. Whew, they were so happy to be out of that enchantment. They could move, they could talk, and they all wanted out of there. Oh, well, the girl, she thought of a plan, the youngest. She took the oldest daughter, everybody take the oldest daughter, and put her in the bottom of a basket. And on top of that girl, she took treasures from that giant's house. And she put those treasures on top of her sister. Everybody put the treasures in the basket. And then she took grass, everybody take grass, and piled that on top to disguise all the treasure and her sister. And as soon as that evening came, the giant, boom, 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 he came in. And the girl said, oh, tonight, would you mind taking this basket? When you go and get all the cabbages, would you mind taking this basket back home to my mother so she can feed it to the cow? that one cow that we have." Well, the giant agreed, and so he took the basket home. Only what else was inside the basket?
Sister.
And what else? Treasure. The next day came, and the giant went out. The girl took her second oldest sister, but he takes sister, put her in another basket. On top of her, she put treasure, and on top of all that, she put grass. So we had to put the grass in. Treasure's in the middle. Yeah. Sure enough, the giant came home. Boom, boom, boom. "Oh, would you please take this other basket full of grass for our one cow? Would you please take that back?" And the giant said he would, and so picked up that basket. He had to pick up the basket. It felt heavier than it should be to just hold grass, but he took it back home with him that night when he went to get the cabbages from the woman. Well, the next day, in the morning, the girl said, "Oh, Giant, I know you're coming back, but I have plenty to do today that I think I want to do. But when you come back, I'll have the basket all ready for you. and can you please take that basket full of grass and bring it back to my mother for the cow?" And the giant agreed. And so that day, she put herself in the basket. Everybody take yourself. Whoosh, and put herself into the basket. And on top of herself, she piled treasure. And on top of that, she piled grass. And she sat and waited. Sure enough, the giant came in. He saw the basket full of grass, thought the girl was out doing something that she wanted to do. She was a good wife. And so he picked up that basket. Everybody pick up the basket. And back home he went with it. Back to where he thought he would pick up more of those cabbages. And he brought that basket of grass over and he set it down right in front of the house. But the mother and the two older sisters were waiting. And in the top window of that house in that little cottage, as soon as that giant sat down the basket, up above, the mother and the two sisters took a big pot of boiling water. Everybody take their pot of water. And they poured all that boiling water onto the giant, and the giant, and he crumpled to the ground and died. And that was the end of the giant. And the mother and the three sisters lived happily after that with their treasure and their cow and lots of cabbages. The end. In this version of the story doesn't end with finding out the name of the elf. She still has to get out of the giant's house and save her sisters. Still, language, learning new words for our emotions, being able to name how we feel, whether we're angry or frustrated or sad, it makes a difference in being able to work through those emotions. When you talk with a loved one about your problems, or you write in a journal about them, when you can put those problems into words, it helps you gain control over the situation.